What is visitor management software and does your office actually need it? Welcome back. Today's topic is what is visitor management software and does your office actually need it? We'll cover what you actually need to know about visitor management software. Let's talk about moving on to what is visitor management software. Visitor management software is a digital system that records, tracks, and manages everyone who enters a workplace. It replaces paper sign-in books with structured digital check-ins, captures visitor details, timestamps every entry and exit, and generates compliance-ready reports on demand. Most platforms store data in the cloud and integrate with existing identity tools like Azure Active Directory. The category covers everything from simple iPad-based kiosks to platforms that handle contractor vetting, NDA signing, and multi-site reporting. For most mid-size offices, the core value proposition is simpler. Replace an unreliable paper process with one that produces a verifiable, searchable record. The shift from paper to digital also changes what visitor data means operationally. A paper log tells you someone visited. A digital system tells you who, when, which host they met, how long they stayed, and whether they signed any required documents before entry. That difference matters enormously when an auditor is in the room. Now, let's talk about the real cost of a paper visitor log in a compliance audit. The DIFC and ADGM both maintain workplace security standards that include visitor tracking requirements. UAE Federal Law No. 45 of 2021 on personal data protection also creates obligations around how visitor data is collected, stored, and retained. A paper sign-in book fails on several of these dimensions at once. When a compliance inspector reviews visitor records, they check 4 things: completeness, accuracy, tamper evidence, and retention. Paper logs fail the tamper evidence test by definition. They also fail retention in practice because books get lost, damaged, or simply discarded after a year. A digital system with cloud storage and an immutable audit trail addresses all 4 requirements automatically. Next up, core features every visitor management system should have. Not all visitor management software is equal. For compliance-sensitive environments, some features are non-negotiable and others are convenient extras. The check-in process needs to capture name, company, contact number, purpose of visit, hostname, and timestamp. The system should log this data in a way that cannot be edited after the fact. CloudCheckIn stores all check-in records on Microsoft Azure with role-based access controls, so only authorized users can view records and no one can delete or alter historical entries. Manual reception processes create bottlenecks. A visitor arrives, the receptionist calls the host is in a meeting, the visitor waits. Digital systems fix this with instant notifications to the host via email, Teams message, or SMS the moment a visitor checks in. Pre-registration goes further, letting hosts register expected visitors in advance so check-in takes under 30 seconds. Next up, moving on to why compliance-sensitive industries can end #39. Afford paper sign-in books. Healthcare, financial services, and real estate are not the only sectors where visitor records matter, but they are the 3 where the consequences of poor record-keeping are most immediate. Healthcare facilities need to know who entered a ward, when, and why. During the COVID-19 period, many UAE clinics scrambled to implement digital check-ins because paper logs couldn't produce the contact tracing data health authorities needed within hours. A digital visitor management system with timestamped records and host attribution solves this. It also supports international facilities treating foreign patients under specific privacy frameworks. DFSA and CBUA-regulated entities must demonstrate that access to sensitive areas is controlled and logged. A reception clipboard doesn't satisfy this. For offices where an Azure security assessment has flagged physical access logging as a gap in their overall security posture, digital visitor management closes that gap directly. The Azure architecture review process often surfaces visitor tracking as a quick win that improves compliance without infrastructure changes. Let's talk about moving on to how CloudCheckIn brings visitor management to Azure Marketplace. CloudCheckIn is Q-Service's cloud-native visitor and employee check-in product, built for compliance-sensitive workplaces in the UAE and wider region. It's available directly on the Azure Marketplace, which means procurement, billing, and provisioning all happen through your existing Microsoft relationship. CloudCheckIn stores all data on Azure infrastructure, which means data residency, encryption at rest, and backup are handled at the platform level. For organizations that already rely on Azure managed services or have recently completed an Azure infrastructure assessment, adding CloudCheckIn doesn't introduce new infrastructure complexity. Everything runs in the same environment your IT team already manages. The product integrates with Azure Active Directory out of the box. Employees sign in with their existing Microsoft credentials, so there's no separate username and password to manage. Visitor data is tied to host accounts in Azure AD, which means reporting is accurate and attribution is automatic from day one. Next up, what does visitor management software cost? Visitor management software pricing varies widely. Enterprise platforms with on-premise options, hardware kiosks, and multi-site support can cost thousands of dollars per month. Mid-tier SaaS platforms typically run $50 to $200 per month for a single location. CloudCheckIn's $3 per user per month model targets teams that want compliance-grade features without enterprise pricing. Because it's provisioned through the Azure Marketplace, it also consolidates billing with your existing Microsoft subscriptions, which simplifies procurement for IT teams already managing Azure cost optimization consulting engagements or consolidated Microsoft agreements. When evaluating total cost, factor in. Next up, let's talk about how visitor management connects to your broader Microsoft stack. One genuine advantage of a platform built on Azure is that it connects naturally to the tools most mid-size businesses already use. Visitor management software doesn't need to be a standalone island. When CloudCheckIn integrates with Azure Active Directory, employees don't need separate credentials. Visitor hosts are pulled from your existing directory, which means the system stays accurate as people join or leave your organization. IT teams familiar with Microsoft Azure Consulting Company engagements will recognize this as a standard identity federation pattern that requires no custom configuration. CloudCheckIn check-in events can trigger workflows in Power Automate. A visitor arrival can automatically notify a host in Teams, log the visit to a SharePoint list, or trigger an approval workflow if the visitor needs access to a restricted area. Teams already using Power Apps and Power Automate can extend these automations without custom development. Power Platform governance policies can also be applied to ensure visitor data flows only to approved systems. Let's talk about next up, does your office actually need visitor management software? The honest answer is, it depends on your sector and your compliance obligations. If you run a small creative agency sharing a serviced office with 5 people, a paper log is probably fine. But if any of the following applies to your organization, digital visitor management is not optional. For most mid-size organizations in compliance-sensitive sectors, the question isn't whether to move to digital visitor management. It's which platform to choose and how to connect it to existing systems. Q Services has completed 500+ Azure and Microsoft platform projects since 2014. CloudCheckIn is the product we built because we kept seeing the same gap in client workplaces: sophisticated cloud infrastructure above the reception desk, and a paper clipboard at the front door. Next up, conclusion. Visitor management software closes a compliance gap that most organizations don't notice until a regulator does. The paper sign-in book isn't just inefficient. It's a liability in any sector where visitor records are subject to audit, retention requirements, or data protection rules. CloudCheckIn gives compliance-sensitive teams a cloud-native option at $3 per user per month, with Azure AD integration, immutable audit trails, and full functionality available to try on the Azure Marketplace with no credit card required. If your office is in healthcare, financial services, or real estate and you're still running on paper, the fix is simpler than you think. Start a free CloudCheckIn trial on Azure Marketplace with no credit card required, and replace your paper log with a system that holds up when it matters.